All right, everyone, drawing workbook page 2. Let's talk about it. So these are contour lines. Contour lines are not just regular straight lines. These are lines that describe the three-dimensional form of an object. So you're going to look at the 3 pictures above and you're going to try and add contour lines to the 3 pictures below. I would start with the bottle first, then do the pepper, then do the hand with holding the ball. Just because I think that the hand with the ball is hardest and the bottle is the easiest. So for this one, you have to draw really precise lines. I would use a pencil, a Sharpie, maybe a colored pencil or a pen would be fine. But no oil pastels or chalk pastels, those are too thick. All right, let's start with the bottle. So for the bottle, I'm going to try and look at how the bottom of the bottle curves and the top of the bottle curves. So you can see if you look closely, this is a curved line. It's not a straight line. We don't want to put any straight lines on the bottle because that's going to make the bottle look flat. We want it to look rounded. So the bottle is really just like a cylinder, like a skinnier cylinder on the top and wider on the bottom. So I'm going to try and make contour lines wrap around the bottle. And my goal here is really to make sure my lines are very close together. Otherwise, doesn't really work as well. And then when I get to this skinnier part, I gotta make skinnier contours, but they're still pretty much the same contour lines. All right, the pepper. Now the pepper is a little bit different from the bottle because you can't just wrap around the pepper like this. You have to look at each of these sections of the pepper. Each of the sections is sort of like a sphere. So you have to kind of wrap around like that. So I'm going to actually use a Sharpie for this one because it's kind of dark, it's hard to see. So I'm going to look at the bottom and the top of each section of the pepper and then try and contour around the top to the bottom. Now the pepper is kind of interesting because once you kind of get to the middle of the pepper, this sort of like middle line right here, then you kind of have to make a straight line. So that's kind of just how perspective works. Contouring around and then straight and then contouring to the top. Okay, so I will have to do this section, and then even the stem is like a little cylinder. All right, the hand is next. The hand is kind of tricky because you have to wrap around the ball as if it's a cylinder, but then the hand is sort of like one cylinder for the wrist and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cylinders for each of the little fingers. So each finger is its own cylinder. So I'm gonna have to try and wrap around each finger individually like this. And this might be a good one to use something very skinny like a pencil or a pen, or a really skinny Sharpie, not a thick Sharpie like I used for the pepper. And then I'm gonna have to wrap around the wrist as if it's its own cylinder. So like that. And then I'm gonna try and wrap around the hand as if it's sort of like, the palm of the hand as if it's sort of like its own cylinder. So I think I'm gonna try and do like this. And I'm gonna hop over those fingers a little bit so I don't run into them. And then I'll just bring the fingers down, okay? So that's pretty good. And then the ball obviously is just like right here. I have to wrap around the top and the bottom. And then when I get to the middle, I have to do a straight line. There. All right, the bottom of this page now says, this is like a part 2. Try this optical illusion that uses contour lines. So you're gonna start with step 1 and then go to step 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And you're gonna try and draw this optical illusion using contour lines. So start with these lines, and then when you get to step 3 is where you start to do the contours above and below. You could even add color too. Like if you look closely, they used some shading in between the little sections here to make it look like it pops out even more. So you can shade in step 6. So step 5 looks different from step 6 because they're adding color shading. All right, let's go to page 3 now. Page 3, we're also using lines, but this time we're using gesture lines. So gesture lines are sort of lines that describe like the body or positioning of a person when you're doing figure drawing. So when you're drawing a person. These are really fast lines. They're very sketchy lines. They're not very precise lines. So I like to use a pencil for this. And I'm gonna start with any person, it doesn't matter, but I'm gonna draw the person down here using sketchy gesture lines. So I am just gonna try and describe like the angle of the person, and you can even draw on top of the person to get the right line. So I'm just kind of starting with like a stick figure. I'm not doing anything very complex. See how fast this is? It should not be slow, precise lines. So after you get kind of like the sketchy nature of how the body is positioned, then you can go back in and really describe how the body curves. And that's where you can take like a different art supply and really look at like the curves of the body and how each of those bodies curves in a different way, okay? So you'll go in with your Sharpie to kind of describe after you've done the sketchy lines. And then a lot of artists like to just kind of like erase the sketchy lines in the end after they've really described the whole body. All right, next page is texture. So now we're past lines, we're on to a new art element. This one is texture. Texture is the way something feels. So you're gonna look at the texture word and try and draw how you think that texture would look in a picture. So spiky, there's a few ways you can do this. Sometimes I like to draw like the outline of a cactus, and I'll do these little sharp spikes, like little lines or little points. Soft maybe would be like very smooth lines like this, not very jagged lines. Bumpy, sometimes I'll do like little irregular circles like this that kind of change in size, almost like a pebbled ground. Stone, I think stone, when I think of stone, it's kind of like brick, but like stones are kind of like old and weathered. So I'm gonna kind of change up like rounded rectangles and put them together. Brick, I like to just do like this. So I'll make some lines and then do little lines. And then on the next row, you kind of go inside of the spaces like that. Fluffy, I like to use kind of like wavy lines for that. It almost reminds me of like cotton balls, like a sheep. Sandy, I like to do just like little dots. Woven is sort of like, if you're thinking of like a basket, like a woven basket, you can do like crisscross lines like this. You can do like different types of woven. You could even do like that. And then wooden. Wooden is kind of interesting because wood grain looks kind of like this. If you look at like a piece of wood or like a tree trunk, they're kind of like odd curved lines like that. All right, the next page is also texture. So this one, you're just gonna look at the picture and see how the texture looks and try and copy it. So like the fluffy bunny, the dog with the curly hair, and then the clouds. Page 6, you are now on to shape. So that's the next art element after line and texture, shape. So what you're gonna do here is you're gonna look at the picture of the animal, and you're gonna try and break that picture into just simple shapes. They can be geometric shapes or organic shapes, but they should just be simple shapes. So you shouldn't draw the animal in a full one shape. You should break it into different shapes. So sometimes I like to go on the picture and just outline the shapes I see. So like the dog has like an oval, a circle, maybe another oval, maybe like triangles for the ears, circle for the snout, maybe like rectangles for the legs. And then I'll try and draw that over here. So I'm just kind of sketchy, like putting down some shapes. And this helps artists just kind of get like the shape of an animal described or whatever objects they're drawing before they go in then and kind of fine tune things. It's kind of like figure drawing. right, last one is page 7, and this is forms. So forms are not shapes anymore. They're 3D shapes. They're 3D objects. So you're going to try and draw each of these 8 forms. You can outline them in the picture here before you draw them here, if that helps you. You can even use a ruler to make straight lines on some of the more straight forms. Okay, the next page we'll go over in the next video. This one is now touching on value and color, so go to the next video if you're ready for the next few pages.